in the core tenets of your program in your book, you have a lot that's built around the DISC profiling, which I've been a student of as well. And one of the challenges that I have when I talk to salespeople about it is, all right, how do I tell, like, because it takes a lot of practice to be able to discern whether or not someone's a D or an I or an S or a C, and how that might impact their communications and how you need to adjust your own communication style to it. There's a lot that goes on behind that. And so a lot of salespeople are like, well, how can I tell which one they are when I have like 5 seconds or less to determine that? So it sounds like this book will help us to answer that question.
Sure.
But what are some of the things, if you can share maybe one thing that people can recognize, all right, this will help you to determine what type of style this person has and how to adjust it. For example, I think D's and I's are relatively easy to see and spot, but what about S's and C's, or maybe explain what that is?
So I'll go through all four. I
Okay.
think there's a lot of quick little tells for each of these quadrants. And one of the things that's important when, thinking about DISC, it's how people prefer to give and receive information. And a lot of times, possibly in that moment, not over a long period of time, it's a very instantaneous look, especially if you're just meeting someone.
Mm-hmm.
So really quickly, a D, a dominant personality that's very direct and task-oriented. They're going to be pretty short, curt, and to the point. There's not going to be a lot of pronouns. There's not going to be a lot of fluff. There's not going to be a lot of asking how your day is going. There's no anecdote or story. This is pure business, short and to the point. And so what you want to do is don't take it personally. Respond in kind. Be short, to the point, and concise. A great thing to build rapport with a D is, so, hey, you're doing really successfully here. What's your next greatest challenge you're shooting for? That's going to open up a whole can of worms, because D's love those challenges. And moving over to the influencer, what I call the socializers. These people are very direct and people-oriented. These are about anecdote, story, energy, thoughts, ideas. So if someone's coming at you with a big smile and a lot of extroverted words, you most likely got an I. So the way to really make that connection there is talk in kind, anecdote, story. Talk about your product around how it relates to you and your life and the people in your life. Really quick and easy. Now, S's, my steady relators on the bottom, which are people-oriented indirect. These are the ones that tend to think before they speak. They love validating others. They're supportive of others. And easy way to tell them is they ask a lot of questions about you, yourself, and your family, your priorities and goals. In other words, all the things I've been talking about are very naturally steady relators. And so my default for everything is start out as a steady relator, because you can always shift to anything else. And so steady relators also use a lot of pronouns, a lot of personalization, anecdote, and story, tend to be very, very resilient and not so flexible a lot of times. So yeah, I'd recognize these people spent a lot of time in a job, in a sales position, or with a company. And if they are very personal, maybe a little touching on the arm, or lots of smiling as well, but just a little more reserved than those crazy eyes like me. Then my conscientious thinkers, these are my task-oriented folks. These are dot the I's, cross the T's, systems, processes, organization. They're also the lowest percentage out of all the ones, and the most precise. And the rest of the world generally tends to drive them nuts because they're not following all the rules. These are very detail-oriented people, and you want to be very precise, exacting, and systematic with how you're communicating your ideas to them. So yeah. That's basically it to me. You can pick up tells pretty quick on this. Like when I'm teaching a class, I'll look it out there and I'll see that, the I's off in the corner, blah, 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 nonstop. The S's are generally sitting by themselves, and the C's are organizing their desk with all the colored pencils in one place. They got the notepad here, and it's very organized.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that's important too, and this goes with any kind of behavioral or personality test or quadrant type of test, we're not all in one bucket. Usually we're a combination of some of those things. It's just which one's going to be, like you said, the dominant one in the context and the situation that they're in right now. So
absolutely. We're a beautiful blend of all four. We just lead with one. It's like our dominant hand versus our non-dominant hand in writing. Right. Can you learn to write with the other hand? Yes, but it's not just not your preference, but you can do it. Same thing with our communication style. And you can pick it up in writing very quickly and easily too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a lot of times too, like I have found that you can find sometimes depending on the role that they're in. So for example, when I'm working with engineers, they're in that C role. They're very organized, detail oriented. They want to talk about the work and just the work. Whereas, people who are in the S sort of category as dominant, I usually find them in customer service because they're trying to either solve a problem or make someone feel better or understand what's going on. And then D's typically are going to be your C level, where they're like straight to the point. And I's are kind of an interesting, because I see that that it depends again on the context of where they are. Like I've seen CEOs be very direct in meetings, but then when they get into networking, they're very like social and eyes and want to talk about big ideas. So you've got to remember it's all about the context that they're in.
And it's the beginning and not the end. I'm a DISC guy, but I'm also Myers-Briggs guy, the Neo-PR, all these things. And, on example, I'm on the Myers-Briggs, I'm an ENTJ, extroverted intuitive thinking judger, which is they call life's natural leader, the executive. Oh yeah. You know what that is when you're 20 years old? Narcissistic megalomaniac jerk, and so it's about not who you are at the core, because you can't change your biology, genetics, chemistry, all the experience you have between the formative years of life. But what you can do is you can add all these behaviors onto it. So you can be as you mature, you can become very situational, and you got new muscle memory about adding all these new behaviors to yourself. And that's what I love about the Code of Trust. And what I talk about is it helps people that are natural born leaders and salespeople to understand exactly what they're doing so they can pass that on to others and so they can enhance it. And for people like me that weren't born with it, they actually know the process to do it. And you can start adding those new behaviors and build new muscle memory so it becomes a more well-rounded, mature individual. So you can be very situational in how you adapt to it.
Yeah, anything can be learned with enough grit and fortitude to want to learn it. And
absolutely.
And I have, and I, by the way, I am an ENFJ, and unless I'm teaching, then I'm an ENTJ.
Super feeler, absolutely.